Greetings, everyone. We've got some explosive developments today that demand your immediate attention, and I'm here to break it all down for you. I spent years working inside one of the biggest, most well-known media outlets you can imagine, watched firsthand how stories got twisted and bent to serve whatever narrative the bosses wanted, and I walked away from all of that. Now I'm independent. I speak my mind freely, and I tell you exactly what really matters. Before we dive into today's chaos, I need your help to keep this truth-telling operation alive. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you really want to support independent journalism that doesn't bow to corporate overlords, consider becoming a channel sponsor. It's viewers like you who make it possible for me to keep bringing you the unfiltered reality that mainstream media won't touch. Let's start with what's happening right here in America, because this is absolutely unbelievable. California Governor Gavin Newsom just pulled off one of the most theatrical anti-Trump performances I've ever witnessed. Picture this. Newsom gathers journalists and his supporters around him, and with a straight face tells them that people are so terrified of Donald Trump that when Newsom walked into a restaurant, the entire staff came out and burst into tears at the sight of him. According to Newsom's dramatic retelling, these restaurant workers were hugging him tightly, treating him like some kind of savior, some beacon of hope in their darkest hour. And then Newsom, clearly reveling in his own performance, asks with mock concern, "What is this? Is this the United States of America? How can people be living in such fear?" You couldn't make this stuff up if you tried, but somehow Democrat Newsom managed to conjure this whole tearful restaurant scene. Meanwhile, when a reporter jokingly asked Trump if he was tired of winning yet, our president shot back without missing a beat. "You can get tired of winning, but I'm not that tired yet." Classic Trump, and it tells us the victories are going to keep coming. But here's what really caught my attention today, and this is where things get seriously concerning. We're seeing massive protests and riots breaking out in The Hague, Netherlands, and the whole world is talking about what went down there. Local citizens took to the streets demanding tougher immigration policies, and what started as demonstrations quickly spiraled into full-scale chaos and disorder. The police were forced to use serious crowd control measures to disperse these aggressive protesters, and 30 people ended up in custody. But here's the kicker. Police officers themselves took a serious beating during these confrontations. Authorities aren't ruling out more arrests as they continue analyzing video footage from the riots, trying to identify more troublemakers. Geert Wilders, the leader of the Freedom Party, took to social media platform X to condemn the protesters' actions against police as completely unacceptable. Wilders didn't hold back in his criticism of the attackers, though I won't repeat exactly what he called them. What makes this even more significant is that Wilders is currently leading in public opinion polls ahead of the parliamentary elections scheduled for October 29th. And here's the crucial context you need to understand. These elections were called after the ruling government completely collapsed due to disagreements over immigration policy with Wilders' right-wing Freedom Party, which ultimately led to his ministers withdrawing from the coalition. But what really stands out to me is this detail that many are overlooking. Some of these rioters showed up dressed in black, wearing masks, which tells us they came prepared for provocation and violence. This wasn't spontaneous anger. This was planned confrontation. Now let's shift to what's happening with European leadership, because Ursula von der Leyen just made some absolutely critical statements that everyone needs to hear. For the first time, the head of the European Commission personally commented on that GPS signal interference incident that affected the aircraft she was traveling on. Von der Leyen revealed that GPS signal disruptions have become a daily problem in many regions bordering Russia. Baltic Sea shipping frequently experiences these disruptions, increasing collision risks dramatically. The same thing is happening with air traffic over the Black Sea, according to the European Commission chief. She emphasized that the European Union takes this very seriously, just like all hybrid and cyber attacks. But here's the question that really matters. When asked directly whether our world is moving toward World War III, von der Leyen's response was telling, "No, it's not moving in that direction, but we are living in very dangerous times, which is why she'll do everything in her power to preserve peace and freedom in Europe." This explains the determination to strengthen and keep strengthening the European community's defensive capabilities. Don't forget to hit that like button and let me know in the comments what you think about these escalating tensions, because your perspective matters in understanding where we're heading. Von der Leyen also made it clear that she won't automatically impose 100% tariffs on goods from India and China. When asked directly whether the European Union would introduce such tariffs at Donald Trump's demand, she responded, The European Union will make its own decisions, because the EU wants to sign a trade agreement with India by the end of this year that will benefit businesses on both sides. In another significant announcement, the European Commission head declared that she has no plans to run for the German presidency in 2027. This comes after German media reports this summer suggested she might leave the European Union's executive body before her term ends in 2029 to run for the German presidency. The authoritative publication Der Spiegel had written that German Chancellor Friedrich Merz was considering proposing von der Leyen's candidacy for the next presidential election in 2027. But here's what's really grabbing attention in European defense circles. Europe wants to build a drone wall to protect its eastern flank. Two companies specializing in drone wall construction in the Baltics claim their technologies are ready for implementation. Von der Leyen, in her State of the European Union address, announced that Europe must heed the Baltic states' call and construct this drone wall. This wall will consist of radars, cameras, and radio frequency detectors designed to jam, block hostile drone signals, or shoot them down with other drones. Speaking of Germany's military preparations, Bundeswehr Inspector General Carsten Breuer wants to deploy new weapon systems against unmanned aircraft in German armed forces as quickly as possible. The German general expects progress in this direction within just a few months, but Breuer also shared some interesting recruitment news, practically boasting that German armed forces are seeing increased interest in military service. According to him, 15% more young people decided to volunteer for military service compared to last year. Everyone understands that Germany urgently needs young men and women joining the armed forces through this new military service program. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier congratulated the Jewish community on Rosh Hashanah, which begins September 22nd, wishing them all the very best from his heart. Nothing surprising there, but it's worth noting these diplomatic gestures during such tense times. Now here's something that's generating serious discussion. Serbia just held a massive military parade in Belgrade that officials called the largest demonstration of Serbian army strength ever. President Vučić declared that this parade emphasizes the country's ability to defend its independence and sovereignty, while also serving as a deterrent against foreign aggressors, though he didn't specify exactly which aggressors he had in mind. Opposition leaders, however, argue that this parade wasn't just about displaying the country's military might, but was primarily aimed at strengthening Vučić's grip on power. Classic authoritarian playbook, if you ask me. But let's switch to some surprisingly positive news from France. The towers of Notre Dame Cathedral are finally open to visitors again. The towers of Notre Dame, which burned down 6 years ago, can now be visited 7 days a week until 11 p.m. President Emmanuel Macron was the first to climb to the cathedral's roof to celebrate the reopening, and naturally, the French president was extremely pleased with himself and the restoration. Here's the practical detail you need to know. While visiting the cathedral itself is free, tower access costs €16 per person. At least they're not completely gouging tourists during these difficult economic times. But now for something absolutely outrageous that happened in Egypt. A 1,000-year-old golden pharaoh's bracelet disappeared from a museum in central Cairo. This priceless bracelet was supposed to be displayed at an exhibition called Treasures of the Pharaohs in Rome. The bracelet, weighing about 600 grams of pure gold, was last seen during packing operations in specialized restoration laboratories where artifacts were being prepared for shipment to Italy. The Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities immediately sent photographs of the missing bracelet to Egyptian airports, seaports, and border crossings to prevent any smuggling attempts. But here's where this story gets absolutely ridiculous. The investigation revealed that 4 people committed the theft, including a museum employee. The most shocking part? These criminals sold this historical treasure for $3,700 to a precious metals dealer in Cairo, and that dealer? He resold the pharaoh's bracelet for $4,000 as scrap metal. That's it. The priceless bracelet no longer exists. They quickly melted it down for scrap, folks. This is the kind of cultural destruction that happens in our modern world. Let me wrap up today's key points before we close. We're seeing orchestrated riots in The Hague over immigration policy, GPS warfare escalating across Europe's borders, Germany rapidly militarizing while building drone walls, and in America, Newsom's theatrical anti-Trump performance continues while our president keeps winning. This is exactly why independent voices matter more than ever. The mainstream media won't connect these dots for you, won't show you the bigger picture of what's really happening across the globe. If this analysis opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered before, smash that like button, subscribe for more unfiltered truth, and seriously consider becoming a channel sponsor. Your support keeps this operation running and ensures I can keep bringing you the reality that corporate media refuses to touch. Write your thoughts in the comments about everything that's unfolding, because I want to hear what you're thinking about all these developments. Until tomorrow, I'm wishing you peaceful skies. And trust me, there's always more to share with you. Stay alert, stay informed, and keep questioning everything they're telling you.